A lot of Cunnilingus questions out there. Just telling you. By the way, check out my favorite t-shirt that my daughter's got me. Mom AF. I'm going to do it. I think I'll do it the same way. If I can get through the whole bowl, I will. I'm not going to talk forever, but I'm going to try to keep it under 2 minutes a topic. So I love how everybody's inner 10-year-old boy came out with these questions. So, all right. So mixing them up and mixing up the magic bowl of words. It's time for relationships and dating from A to Z. The letter C. Okay. Ready? I'm always nervous because I don't know what's going to come up first. Children. Oh, for God's sake. Highly inconvenient. Even when they're cool enough to give you shirts like this. No, they're highly inconvenient. They are total cock blockers. They cramp your style, but they're amazing and wonderful. And ultimately, when you're married with children, you must make time for your relationship. Your children are their own people on their own paths, and they benefit from you taking care of your relationship. When they become the center of everything, they are by default the center of everything in your world. You have to take care of them. Their needs come before yours all the time. But when it comes to your relationship, you need to carve out time from the children. You must. So there you go. Crying. Okay, men, you need to be not so scared of crying. It's okay. And women, it's really important to check in with yourself when you're crying. One, I think the reason we live longer is because we cry, because we actually release that tension. We release. Crying is often the releasing of the story, releasing of the blocked energy, right? So when you're crying, though, don't assume that you're sad. Okay. Often it's good to check in with yourself. Women particularly, we cry when we're angry, we cry when we're sad, we cry when we're frustrated, we cry when we're scared. And sometimes when we cry, it helps to name it, and it can help our partner when we name it. Sometimes you can cry after sex, right? And it's not because you're sad, it's because it's an emotional release. So sometimes it helps your partner to let them know what the tears are about. Like, I'm crying because I'm frustrated. You don't have to fix it. Or, I'm crying, but that doesn't mean that this is so big. I'm just crying because I'm scared to tell you how I feel. So it's just a release of tension. And we're actually, I think that people who cry are lucky, to be honest, if you're comfortable with crying. So cuddling, do it. It's good for you. It's good for the world. It's good for everybody. We're tribal creatures. We need to cuddle, right? Yeah, we need to cuddle. So now, of course, everybody's entitled to their comfort level of cuddling. Hug for her, roll for you. Right? That's the Friends episode, right? With the cuddling. Come on. You must comment if you know what I'm talking about. Criticism. Ooh, if you would like a long, slow death in your marriage, definitely do a lot of this. Criticism is like cancer in your relationship. When you criticize, okay, if you find that you're being critical of your partner, you got to look at yourself. You got to say, first of all, why do I care? People can get critical about how somebody does the dishes. Okay. So why is your way so correct? All right. If they're doing the laundry and you're criticizing how they're doing the laundry, or you're criticizing them because you had to ask for them to do the laundry, or anything like that. Criticism is literally the slow death of your relationship. And for men, when they get criticized, it feels like a lack of respect, and respect and love are so intertwined, right? So it just literally doesn't feel like love. So before you criticize, just think about what is going to be accomplished with this, and stop for a minute and think about why you're invested in this so much that you have to come from a place of resistance and fear and criticism and negativity. If you're being criticized a lot, then you need to look at communication, right? That this is, sorry, I'm getting messages and my mother's calling. It's like, it's crazy. There's so much happening at the same time. I forgot to put my do not disturb on there. So, so if you're being criticized, one, I want you to take a look at how you ended up in a relationship where you're being criticized all the time. Like, how is that familiar? Are you criticizing yourself all the time? Or did one of your parents criticize you all the time? Why is this familiar, and how did you get into a relationship where you're being criticized all the time? That's the most important step for you to take. And then it comes down to communication and asking for how you would like to be spoken to, because we teach people how to treat us. So there you go. Okay. Codependency. Man, you know, the struggle with codependency is that if you're already in a relationship where you are codependent, this is like a wound attraction thing, right? So it's really hard to heal within the relationship that you're already in. If you've made the discovery that you are being codependent in this relationship, the only thing that you can do is to because when you adjust, it's like when we talk about family systems theory, meaning like every family has a system, and you can be codependent with your sister, you can be codependent with your parents, you can be codependent with your partner. When you start to change your own codependency, it's like a cog that shifts, right? And now all these other things start to adjust. And sometimes they go away. And so it's really, it can be scary to shift your codependent behavior. So, and the first step is generally asking yourself, okay, am I doing whatever I'm doing in this relationship out of fear or out of love? And only you know that. So when you start to shift and you start to be less codependent and say, do things from a place of wholeness, right? That's going to affect your partner differently. They're going to be like, whoa, why aren't you doing this dance with me anymore? They might like it. They might like it. And it could essentially start to heal both of you, especially if you can talk about the fallout and you can talk about how different it feels. It can be an amazing thing, but it is very difficult, particularly if you're really young and you've chosen a codependent relationship, you know, that started when you were like 17 or 18. That's really tough. As we become a little less fearful and more mature in talking about how we feel in relationship, and when you don't take care of me, or I feel like I have to take care of you, when we can actually start to verbalize those things, there's huge room for growth. But it can also shift your relationship in a way where that person's like, hey man, I kind of need you to be codependent with me, or I don't feel love and I can't seem to mature past that. So, and they might not say that obviously, but that's essentially why they go away. So there you go. I hope that made sense. I'm not even sure what I said. Commitment issues. Oh God, you know, commitment issues. This is another thing that gets labeled all the time. Men have commitment issues. I have commitment issues. This comes down to why do you think you're supposed to commit? Why do you think he's supposed to commit? Is there really an issue, or are you just not sure that you want to be in this situation? Because if you're dating by default, if you're meeting somebody and you're feeling like, if you're meeting people and you're like, gosh, I just can't commit to anybody. Well, maybe you haven't met the person that makes you want to be committed. There's a difference between liking somebody and loving somebody and wanting to be life partners. Okay. So this whole commitment thing is wonderful because it really allows you to feel comfortable making future plans and asking for your needs to be met and blah, 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 all that stuff. But when you have commitment issues in the first 2 or 3 months of getting to know somebody, I don't think it's an issue. I think it's smart. I think it's being honest with yourself and allowing yourself to get to know the layers of somebody. And I think that men deserve to get to know you a little bit before they decide that they want to take themselves off the market and commit. This is a really big decision. So, and it should be a bigger decision for you, ladies. It should be. Stop just like signing up for everything just because you've already slept with them. Stop it. Stop it right now. Okay. Because that's dating by default. That's saying like, this person chose me, I've invested a couple months, I'm just gonna like see if I can make this work. No, let's get intentional about what you want. And when you find it, you will naturally find yourself committing to it and choosing it every day. Ugh, that's boring. Okay, sorry. Closure. Oh, another Friends reference. And that, my friends, is what you call closure. Closure. I'm a big fan of closure. You know, that's my own codependent shit, is that like, I kind of need to know that what has been said needs to be said. And I also don't like to not like people or feel, guys aren't super great at it. Here's the thing. Okay. I have a particular situation coming to mind where a client of mine was dating quite a bit, and she let someone know who she had a really nice time with. They just really didn't connect intellectually, but she let him know like, hey, I've kind of met somebody and I really want to explore that, and I think I'm gonna like, you know, I'm not gonna see you anymore, but you know, I've had a really nice time. And his initial response was like, oh, what happened to the, you know, nice person that I met, and blah blah blah, and I guess I mean, he was really angry. It was not the nicest text. And that was his rejection, right? That was just his rejection, right? So she actually responded with, you know, I'm really sorry, you know, that I hope that you can, you know, I can't remember how we did. I wish I had the text. I actually have a record of it somewhere. Anyway, the way she responded was, you know, I certainly didn't mean to offend you, and I really did have a nice time with you, and I really wish you the best. Okay, so she didn't even acknowledge essentially the anger. Like, she didn't fight back. She didn't like go and like tumble in that. She just said, like, kind of repeated what she said the first time, which is essentially like, I see you, you know, I certainly, you know, I'm not trying to hurt you, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and it was short. Always keep it short. And in about 20 minutes, he responded with like, well, you know, I wish you the best too. And, you know, let me know if you ever want to hook up, basically. So, you know, kind of like keeping himself available. So, you know, that's, and so there was a little bit more closure there, and everybody, the problem with dating right now is ghosting is really so common because nobody is really brave enough to say that they don't, you know, that they're not interested anymore. It's a really difficult conversation. I think it's a huge problem in dating, and I think it makes it so painful. So I think anytime that you can give someone closure, or you can create closure for yourself, I think it's a good idea. I just think it's a kind thing to do. And so that's what you should always go back to, is would it be kind to do this? Would it be kind to get some closure? So consent. Ooh. Consent. So this is really, hopefully, mostly a dating question. Consent obviously needs to be enthusiastic. This is where, you know, I have a little dating guide that includes like, don't get drunk, right? You want to be able to make sure that you are consenting on your terms, right? And keeping your wits about you is important. And consent is, you know, what is it? It's continuous and, yeah, enthusiastic. Yeah. And you can always change your mind, all of those things. Here's an interesting thing to think about. When you're on a date, if someone, again, another particular situation with, the person was not taking no for an answer in other areas, right? Like, you know, can I come over? Can I do that? Can I do, you know? And if someone is not taking no for an answer in any other area, then you want to remember that that's a red flag, that this person, given the opportunity, is going to go into an entitled place and they're going to take what they want. So, of course, the responsibility, you know, I'm not saying that it's the woman's fault, or I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that there are things that you can do to make sure that you are paying attention and that you're not getting yourself into a position where you can honor yourself in that situation, right? So your best always keeping yourself in the best possible situation, right? So, and it's really, yeah, it's just going to help you to remember that your consent, to honor your own consent, right? To not go into that place of like, well, I already kind of came over and I already kind of doing this and we're already making out. We already, no, none of that, none of that makes consent automatic, right? And so you have to know that in your own self, so that then you can be coming from that place, because that is your energetic force and strength. And so so honor yourself, right? Caring through the hard times. Yeah. We choose relationships for joy. Yes, we do. And we want to keep, we want to remember that this is sort of our place for expression and love and joy and all of that. But shit happens, life happens, right? And this is when you find out, is your partner on your side? And so, caring through the hard times really requires you putting your own needs aside, right? Let's say your partner's going through something really tough with their kids and you're feeling kind of ignored and you're feeling kind of sad, or let's say they're having a really, really challenging week at work, or they've lost their job, anything like that. And you're feeling like, man, you're not stepping up, or gosh, she's just, not home anymore, or she's not around. And you realize like this is because your person is going through something, right? They might have a medical issue. This is where that allegiance, that being on each other's side, really gets tested, right? And that is part of what creates the love, like the fuel. When I talk about passion, I talk about the fire triangle. You've got your love, which is like the fuel, and then you got your spark, and then you got your oxygen, right? And you need all those things to keep the fire burning. Well, the way that stock of wood gets built up is through that allegiance, through that allowing each other to be authentic, and also standing by them, even if you don't really like the situation or you don't really agree with them, right? And so it's important in relationship to really notice how you feel doing those things, like when the stakes aren't high, right? How do you feel about being that person, or is that person there for you in that way when the stakes aren't high? Because once you get married, have babies, own property together, the stakes get really, really high, right? And so you want to make sure that that love is being stoked, right? By practicing that authenticity and that allegiance, because there are going to be times when you really become life partners with somebody that you're going to have to maintain that that alliance and that being on their side and being there for them. And it's hard. You have to be selfless, and you gotta have to put your needs aside. And then you also, in relationship, of course, if that becomes an extended period of time, you need to be able to say what your needs are, and they may or may not be able to be there for you. And so that becomes where always keeping those channels of communication open is so important. Okay. What have we got here? Oh, curiosity about the past. Man, don't ask anything you really don't want to hear. You got, that is on you. You got a curiosity about the past, you don't want to hear it, don't ask. Somebody's past is not always your business. Everybody's entitled to some privacy. Okay. So that's my feeling about it. Creativity in relationship. I'm thinking this is about like keeping things creative, maybe like in how you handle your time together, your relationship, maybe your sex life, all of that. Again, this can be really scary for people. So it's really about keeping things expansive and keeping things different. So, and if you're talking about creativity as far as like supporting each other's creativity, my God, that's like so important. Again, that's that piece of authenticity, really letting your partner express themselves. They might want to spend some time doing something creative that takes them away from you. But when you nurture that in your partner and you nurture that in your relationship, you're only allowing for more expansiveness. And so that the relationship becomes less trapping, right? And so if we can, because we are creative beings. You are a creative being. Whether you might be like, well, I don't paint, I don't dance, I don't do whatever. It doesn't matter. You are a creative being. And we are constantly evolving, and we need our relationships to evolve and stay expansive. So Really encouraging each other's creativity is really an important part of keeping your relationship, like that garden, like nurtured and growing. Okay. Da, da, da. Communication, how to be heard. I talk about this a lot. Concrete, stay something concrete. I notice this is happening. Okay. You're on your phone. Okay. Inarguable. You're on your phone. That was my phone. There we go. And I imagine it's because you don't want to be here. Is that true? Okay. Stay something concrete. Own your imagination. Ask if it's true. There you go. I know that, let's see, comfortable versus complacent. Comfortable is wonderful. Complacent is going to breed resentment, I think. Complacent is really about really knowing that your relationship is like stagnant. That sounds like stagnation to me, right? I think we've talked about that a lot. Cohabitation, Cunnilingus. This was in here a lot, actually. This was on a few different threads, and it was really, and it was from men and women. So if I'm saying, give me a topic for relationship issue, and Cunnilingus comes up, then I'm guessing that the issue is one of two things, giving and receiving, right? Okay, so what I can say that I have spoken with a lot of women about is and what men might not realize is that many women are just not comfortable with receiving it. They don't really know why you like it. And sort of feel like you're doing them a favor. Okay, these are all things that I've heard from multiple women. So, one, what I can tell you, ladies, is that they do enjoy it. If they want to do it, it's because they enjoy it. And it's essentially like engaging with, making out with the center of you, right? The center of you and your femininity. And it's really about craving you and wanting you. So it's actually a really like loving, wanting expression toward you. What's difficult for many women, men, if you're listening, is to just relax and receive, because they're just terrified that they don't look good or smell good or whatever. And so if you can somehow communicate to them to help them relax and receive, then well, then you're just going to change their lives, frankly. So be that guy, okay? Tell them it's pretty. It's really, really important for women to really understand, because I hope it's changing. I hope it's changing, but I think that there's literally like shame around our parts, you know, like we think they're weird. And so it's important to maybe just name it and just say, God, I'm just really kind of uncomfortable, you know, with this. I'm nervous. You can say I'm nervous, you know, whatever it is. And, and just asking, you know, asking for what you like. And God, that's so hard. I know that's so hard. But if this is actually a relationship issue that's come up from men and women, and this was probably posted like 4 times, then it's really important that we talk about it, because oral sex is a very, very intimate giving and receiving for each other. And guys, you know, there's so many threads out there on like how to do it well. And also, you know, our parts are completely moody. Just because something works yesterday doesn't mean it's going to work today. So, so it's really important to have some communication around it. So what I hope for the women listening to this is that something I've said here might make you go like, oh, really? Like it's okay to be comfortable and relax and receive. And for men, I hope that maybe something has clicked for you to say like, oh, she doesn't want me to do it because she's like nervous. Or, you know, maybe like, so maybe we can like add a little bit of communication and fun and playfulness around it. So yeah, so there you go. Last couple, cohabitation. God, this is a long one. I might have to do like a whole video on this. Anyhow, living together is I think if you're combining families can be really, really difficult for your relationship. It is not always necessary. I've actually been with my man for 10 years and almost 10, we're in our 10th year together, and we have 6 kids between the two of us. So we don't live together. We just live really close to each other. And I think that's really done a lot for our relationship. I mean, we spend the night together a lot all the time, but over the years, as our kids have been young, it really hasn't been necessary for us to feel committed to each other. It has been challenging in that it obviously costs us more to live apart, but God, we'd need like an 8-bedroom house. But it's also left out a lot of conflict. Oh, conflict, another C word. Okay. And the last one, change. Oh, change. This is so like vague. Change is almost always good. It really is. It's scary. And it's important to recognize that each person in a relationship is comfortable with a different rate of change. And because men are very visceral and present, they tend to not jump toward change. And when you bring it up and you want to change something, they're like super resistant, right? And this is a generalization, okay? I mean, not all men are like this, not all women are like this. And women, we tend to process information like we kind of see the whole picture, right? So we've almost already processed the change, and we're already over there in the future. You cannot expect your man to jump over there with you. So when it comes to change, you really have to, if you're looking for change, you want something to change, then you have to present it in a way that you're not already there. Like, you're not like, I'm already decided this is the change that we need. We want to present it as, I acknowledge that this is different. What do you think of this? And give each other time to process it and sleep on it. Okay, so any kind of change, you want to acknowledge that we are all comfortable with a different rate of change. That is what we control in our world, right? Is our rate of change. So that is the letter C. That's everything. So I hope you're really enjoying these. The letter D is tomorrow. I know it's coming. So the letter D is tomorrow. It should be fun, about the same time. So thank you all so much for joining me here for the letter C. Tomorrow will be letter D. And until then, feel the love. Mwah. Bye.